In section 3.2, we will talk about pie charts. The distribution, well, let's first define the word distribution in statistics. The distribution of a variable, these are all possible values that the variable can take on. The distribution of a categorical variable can be described by a pie chart, which is a disk, so basically it's a circle, where slices represent the categories. So let's say, for example, one category, let's say the question was how much do you text? And 25% of people said way too much. So this would represent the slice of the pie where the responses were that they text too much. And the other slices would be drawn similarly. The proportion of the total area for one slice is equal to the relative frequency, which we'll talk about for the category represented by the slice. And the relative frequencies are usually written as percentages. Here's an example. A total of 2,666 American adults were surveyed about their opinion on the degree to which political leaders talk about their faith and prayer. Their responses are summarized below. So 2,666 American adults were asked a question. What do you think about how much their political leaders talk about their faith and prayer? 618 said too much. Now that's a frequency. Frequency is the actual number of people who said too much. 815 said too little, 497 said just the right amount, and 136 said they weren't sure. Now a frequency is just the actual number of people who gave a response. So 618 said too much. Relative frequency is the frequency relative to the total. So to find relative frequency, we would take 618 and we would divide that by the total, which is 2,066. If we do this, this will give you 0.299. So the relative frequency is 0.299. Now remember, in the definition said we usually write the relative frequencies as percentages. So to convert this to a percent, remember we multiply this by 100, which will give us 29.9. And if we round that, then about 30% of individuals said that politicians talk too much about their faith. Now once again, to get a relative frequency, you take the frequency of the response and you divide it by the total. That gives the relative frequency. If you multiply that by 100, that gives you 29.9, and if you round that, we get 30%. Okay, now let's talk about too little. So too little, what percent, or how many people said that politicians talk too little about their faith? 815 divided by 2,066. Okay, if you put this in a calculator, this will give you approximately 0.394. Okay, and that's your relative frequency. Relative just means relative to the total. So that's your relative frequency. If you convert that to a percent, this gives us 39.4%, which you can round to 39%. Okay, how many people said they talk just the right amount? 497 people said that. But what does 497 mean relative to the total amount? So that's divided by 2,066, and this will give us 0.241 as the relative frequency. Multiply this by 100, you get 24.1, which is rounded to 24%. Not sure? 136 people said they're not sure about the question. So you got 136 over 2,066. If you divide this, you get 0.066. That's your relative frequency. Multiply that by 100. This gives you 6.6. And if you round that, then we will have 7% as the relative frequency. Oh, sorry, the percentage. Okay, so now we're going to take these percentages and we're going to construct a pie chart, or a very estimated pie chart. Technology will help you create an accurate one, but for our purposes, we're going to create an approximate pie chart using these percentages. Okay, so let's construct an approximate pie chart. So there's our circle. Now we got to approximate. Like how do you draw 30%? Well, here's what we can do. We can say that if I draw these like little dotted lines, I know a circle is uh, 360 degrees, right? But let's just say that one circle, this is going to be one hole. So this is one hole. If you split that into 4 parts, which is what we did, then each part is about 25% of the circle. So this is 25, 25, 25, 25, and this will give us 100%. So the first category, 30% of people said politicians talk too much. So if this is 25%, then 30% will be just above it. And again, we are doing an approximation. It's not exact by any means. So we're going to say that this is about 30%. 30%. And 30% of people said that politicians talk too much, so we'll label this as too much. Okay, now let's keep going. 39% said they talk too little. We'll come back to that one. Let's go to the next one. 24% said they talk just the right amount. So if this is 25%, then 24% is going to be just a little bit below that. Okay, so this is 25%, then 24% is going to be just below it. So again, these are all rough approximations. So then this will be, and I probably should not have used yellow, this will be 24%, and 24% of people said politicians talk too little. Okay, or I'm sorry, they said they talk just the right amount. Okay, so this is just, they talk just the right amount. Okay, now let's go to the last one. 7% said they're not sure. So 7%, again, this is like 1% because it's 24, and so that's 1. So 7% we can approximate it's going to be like about here. And again, this is a rough approximation. This is not exact by any means. Only technology will, give us an exact. And 7% of people said that they are not sure. So we're going to label this as not sure. Now the rest is about, hopefully, if we did it kind of correctly, the rest is about 39% who said they talk too little. So this area is going to be about 39% who said they talk too little. Now, on your homework, you don't have to construct anything. You just have to approximate it and select the right one. Same thing on the exam. You don't have to construct it. You just have to select the right one. So that's why you only have to know the approximations. All right. Now, what percent? Notice here the keyword here is percent. What percent of people believe that political leaders talk too much? So what percent? Right there, 30%. 30% believe political leaders talk too much about their faith. Now, when you see the word proportion, this refers to a decimal. So when you want a proportion, you would convert a percent to a decimal. What proportion of those surveyed think that political leaders talk the right amount or too much? Okay, so what percent, first of all, say they talk about the right amount? The right amount is here, which is 24%. But since we want a proportion, we convert that 24% to a decimal, which would be 0.24. So 0.24 or 24% of people think that they talk the right amount. But because we want a proportion, convert that to a decimal. What about too much? So too much is right here, which is 30%. Convert that to a decimal, that'll be 0.30. If you add those up, 0.24 plus 0.30, this will give you 0.54. So the proportion of those surveyed that political leaders talk the right amount or too much is 0.54. What proportion of those surveyed do not think political leaders, now here's the keyword, do not, think they talk the right amount? So here's the easiest way to do this. Let's figure out what proportion of people think that the political leaders talk just the right amount. Okay, so if you go back, the right amount is 24%, okay, or 0.24. Now, so we know that a whole pie chart is 100%, or in proportion, 100% as a proportion equals to 1. Okay, so if 0.24 think they talk the right amount, then the rest, they don't think they talk the right amount. Either too much, too little, or they're not sure. So if we take 1 minus 0.24, this will give you 0.76. Okay, so we want to know what proportion do not talk the right amount. So we take the right amount and we take 1 minus that. The other way we could have done this is we could have added the rest. So we don't want the right amount. So we want 30 plus 39 plus 7. So if we add 0.30 plus 0.39, 7% is 0.07. If we add these up, then this will also give us 0.76. But the first way is obviously easier. Can we assume these percentages to be true for all Americans? Definitely not, because we don't know how the study was designed. And if the study was designed incorrectly, let's say using voluntary response or convenient sampling, remember those are two types of sampling that do not give accurate results. So no, because we don't know how the study was designed. It wasn't specified that it's a scientific study conducted by a reputable company. Since we don't know how the study was designed, we can't assume that it's true for all Americans, that there may have been sampling error. There may have been some kind of sampling error. Okay, if you have questions, please bring them to class.